Go for it.
Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds by nerds, I'm Narcus Dave, and tonight I'm joined by this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted, how are you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
I'm doing good. So tonight we're going to be talking about the 2025 Unearthed Arcana Eberron updates, and we're going to get we're going to get another crack at the revised Artificer. We're going to get a subclass, and then we're going to get Dragonmarked Feats. We're going to break it down into kind of segments where we're going to talk about the Artificer. Then we'll talk about the Cartographer, and then we're going to talk about the Dragonmarked Feats. And then at the end, we will take any questions you have. So just feel free to drop them in the chat. Don't get discouraged if we don't take them, because after we go through all the material, we will absolutely take your questions. So with that, let's jump into Unearthed Arcana 2025 Eberron updates with the Artificer.
All right, so as always, there's always a little caveat, a little addendum that says this is playtest material, and explains how it looks, talks about the power level options. It's like, okay, things in the 2024 handbook have been scaled up, so therefore this is kind of trying to match the current rule set, and they understand about the power creep without using that particular word.
Yeah, yeah. So all right, so we got the Artificer, a magical crafter and inventor of wonders. Masters of invention, artificers use ingenuity and magic to unlock extraordinary capabilities in objects. They see magic as a complex system waiting to be decoded and then harnessed in their spells and inventions. You can find everything you need to play one of these inventors in the next few sections. And I gotta say, that is like the smallest intro into a character class I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely much smaller than what
Yeah.
you typically get for a class. It's usually about three times that, if not longer. But because it's playtest material and it's things that I think are going to ebb and flow, they didn't want to tie anything down that wasn't gonna become rock solid with whatever the final version looks like.
Yeah, it's already a fairly big document anyway. So primary ability obviously is intelligence. They still use a D8 for their hit points, saving throws, con, and intelligence. It's just the same that we all come to know and love. Their skill proficiencies, they get 2 from Arcana, History, Investigation, Medicine, Nature, Perception, or Sleight of Hand. Weapon proficiency, simple weapons. Tool proficiencies, they get Thieves Tools, Tinker Tools, and 1 type of Artisan Tools. So they get plenty of tool proficiencies. Armor training, light and medium armor, and shields. And of course, you have 2 options for starting equipment. It's a handful of stuff, or you can take the cash, the gold.
As always, that's a
Yeah.
a basic starting thing for all adventuring
So
classes.
there's a section that we kind of haven't been talking about much, but I wanted to on this just because some things popped out at me, and that is as a multi-class character, gain the following traits from your core artificer traits table: hit point die, proficiency with tinker tools, proficiency with 1 skill of your choice from the artificer skill list, and training with light, medium armor, and shields. That's the main thing that I just want to point out, because you're getting a decent amount from it. You're
So for one level, you're gonna get a a, a tool set, a proficiency, light armor, medium armor, and shields.
Yes, like so, like immediately I thought like, wow, slapping on this on a wizard would be pretty baller.
Yeah, being able to grab that tool set, being able to grab, a free skill, which, you're already talking about, intelligence being your primary for wizard, and grabbing those armor and shield, like heck, like all right, I got a shield in one hand, a focus in the other, now I'm badass wearing, half plate.
Yeah. So they start off right off the bat with spellcasting, even though they're technically half casters. Which also has been kind of one of the unique things for the Artificer, and they kind of introduced into the game as being a half caster and like getting it immediately at first level. They kind of started the trend because now all the other character classes do. And nothing's really changed here other than the fact that you can use thieves tools, tinker tools, or another kind of artisan tools as a spell casting focus when you cast when you cast your spells, as opposed to using a spell component pouch.
Yeah, so there's a a section on the Artificer updates, and it talks about the different changes that are made if you didn't want to, like, if you want to download the document and not read through the whole thing. This gives you the gist of what these changes are.
Yeah, what's different? We'll kind of like go over that as we get to it. So after spellcasting, which obviously your spellcasting ability is intelligence, after that we get into Tinker's Magic. You now know the mending cantrip, which I don't think you got that before. And as a magic action, while holding the Tinker tools, you can create one item from in an unoccupied space within 5 feet of yourself, choosing the item from the following list. And it's basically a bunch of like mundane gear and equipment, but it's not like some of it isn't stuff you would necessarily want to carry on you, like a block and tackle, or maybe the 10-foot pole. So it's things like that. You can be like, I don't need to buy this because I can just produce it. Or if it's just like it's the kind of like the useful things that like sometimes you think of a cool way to use it, but it's not necessarily something you might have started the game with. So as an artificer, you can be like, you know what, that would be handy right now. Let me see if there's anything on this list that'll get us through this problem.
And like I'm a little sad ladder's not an option here. But it
Powerful.
is what it is.
The
But
ladder was just too powerful.
ball bearings, caltrops. I mean, they're technically one use items anyway. So like you
Yeah.
create them, throw them out there, use them, and then they're gone because the things vanish when you finish a long rest, and you can use the feature a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, per day. So
So
like it's useful,
yeah, well,
but
you got this feature before in the last Unearthed Arcana,
mhm.
but they only lasted like an hour. So now they
So
actually last the whole time, which again, like I think we talked about before. Like this is kind of dumb. Why is it? Well, why can't your net last? The
so
day
I,
at
I'll
least.
tell you I'll tell you exactly why. And having it last 24 hours, I guarantee you somebody is gonna figure out which one of these things has the highest silver value, because that's probably all it is.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be like, okay, well, I'm gonna go make 3 of them. I'm gonna go sell them for a gold, and then I'll do the same thing in tomorrow. Because they last 24 hours. And sure, you're gonna be a shady shyster from town to town. But you're gonna net a couple extra gold pieces because that's the way some people are gonna play.
Well, I
And
actually like that. I'm a fan of that because I'm like, oh, that's great. So you're a shyster in these towns. Like, don't plan on staying there long because the word's going to get
the,
out. This guy, don't buy this guy's stuff. He's ripping you off, and also people might show up angry. I see it as a
sure,
role playing opportunity.
and I'm all for that, as well, because it's going to add a layer of role playing. It's going to add a thing that your character does, and you're going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to take alter self, and I'm going to keep trying to change my appearance, and I'm like, all right, I love it, I'm here for it. But I think they were trying to, oh well, let's nip that problem in the bud by the things only lasting an hour. That's not enough time for you to get out of town, and
Yeah,
what.
I like this
So.
change, is what I'm saying. I guess. So
I
I'm
I,
down
I
with it.
agree,
Let's
but
let's move on to our next ability.
so next ability is replicate magic item. So basically, this is where you learn plans and you craft the items so that you can basically be able to say, all right, I'm gonna make these things, and the plans have set levels at which you can be able to get them. It's basically what you can get at 2, 6, and level 10, and it caps out at 14 when you can get some really amazing things.
Yeah, and you start this ability at level 2, keeps increasing where you get access to more plans that and more plans than items you can create. And a lot of them are just magic items out of the DMG. Some of them are specific to the artificer that you get to make, um, which is kind of cool. One of the other things is if you create a wand or a weapon with this feature, you can also use it as a spellcasting focus. So that's another little quality of life improvement they made, which is super useful for I think is it the artillerist is the one that's good with wands, and the battle
Hmm.
master, their thing is weapons. So
Yep.
as a caster, like if you're really trying to do things by the book, it gets kind of annoying being like, how am I juggling my shield, my weapon, and actually casting a spell? Where our DMs aren't super um anal about it, but I could definitely see in some games your DM being like, well, how are you doing this?
Yeah, that is always the problem when you have, characters, and, whether you like it or not, the Artificer is a bit of a gish. It's a spellcaster, but, a number of the number of the subclasses lean very heavily towards, martial characters.
It,
So it's like,
it
all right,
is
you're in the thick of it, but you're casting spells.
it is the
How you
only
doing?
gish that I truly believe isn't inferior, right? One is because the class is built that way, and
Right,
two, there's so much utility built into the artificer. Like they're not meant to be great at any one thing anyway. They're like
right.
what the bard always kind of claimed to be. So
So
level 3 is when you get your subclass. Level 4, ability improvement. This is just standard stuff. Level 6, magic item tinkering, and this is where we kind of or tinker. This is where we kind of see some new things. Your replicate magic item feature gains following options: charge magic item as a bonus action. You can touch a magic item within 5 feet of yourself that you created with the replicate magic item, and use charges. You recharge the item and expend a level 1 plus spell slot. The number of charges in the item is equal to the level of the slot expanded. I believe that's new.
yeah, that is absolutely a new ability. And this is the first time that, anything has been able to, as a player character option, just be like, yeah, I'm gonna just refuel my item,
Or someone
and be able
else's.
to, oh, sure, or somebody else's. But as long as, it's something that you created, you can put a spell slot into it, and, return a number of charges equal to the spell slot. Pretty nice.
Also, but that's not it. Also, you get drain magic item as a bonus action. You can touch a magic item within 5 feet of yourself that you create it with the replicate magic item and cause the item to vanish, converting its magical energy into a spell slot. Slot is level 1 if the item is common, or level 2 if the item is uncommon or rare. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. Any spell slot you create with this feature vanishes when you finish a long rest. So in a pinch, you can turn your magic items into spell slots. I wish it didn't max out at level 2 and kind of let you keep, as long as you had the item, let you kind of uh burn spell slots. And again, like,
I don't think you can create anything higher than rare. I think that's why.
well, then I would have liked to seen a 1, 2, and a 3, and like might even be a thing that I would do in my games.
Sure.
And also, if you think about it, the spells that you get access to as an artificer, it's not like the spells you're getting as a sorcerer or wizard necessarily. So
Hmm.
I don't think they're going to impact your game as much.
I completely agree. But we're still not done with level 6, because you also get transmute magic item, and essentially you can take an item that you've created, and as a magic action, just touch it and turn it into another item that you have the plan for. So, like, if you get to this point, at 6th level, um, you know, you've got, the ability to create, armor +1. But, when you get to 14th level, you can make armor +2. So you could just be like, all right, I'm gonna turn my armor +1 into armor +2, as a magic action, because if you've got the plans for it and you made the first one, voila, pretty nice.
When I look at this, it's not the direction I'm looking in. I'm looking, going, oh, what particular wondrous item fits the situation I'm in, right? Like,
Ah,
or wand or something like that. Like, where I think it's more about the flexibility, being like, oh, the right tool for the right job. You've just increases your chances of having that. So to me, that's a lot of fun. That's amazing, and also, I so far this is the best version of the artificer, making it closer to like how they were portrayed in the novels.
mhm.
Which, again, novels are hard, right? When you're talking D
Sure,
and D and
sure.
stats or whatever, but I think they're moving in the right direction. So, Level 7, you get Flash of Genius. This is one of the best abilities in the game, let alone that the Artificer gets. When you are a creature within, you can see within 30 feet of you, fails an ability check or saving throw, you can take a reaction to add the bonus to the roll, potentially causing it to succeed. The bonus equals your intelligence modifier. You can take a reaction. You can take this reaction a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, and your gain all expended uses when you finish. Long rest comes up a lot in our games. As a matter of fact, I just ran this weekend, and it came up quite a bit even in that game. The slight
Yeah, I
change
mean,
from the stock standard Artificer is now it's when the check fails, then you can use the reaction. Before it was just you had to call it.
right, yeah. So I like that verbiage better of being able to say, "Oh, it failed. All right, well now I'll use this ability," rather than the
Yep.
DM saying, "Okay, is that your final answer?" I mean, that's been heard a lot. Now it's like, all right, bam, I'm not wasting a resource.
Yeah. I mean, in my games, I'm generally pretty generous with that stuff. So
Oh, of course, right. But I mean, in general, there have
yeah,
been
you
lot,
can't always rely on the generosity.
right.
And we know
Level.
better than most because of when we grew up with this game. So level 10, magic item adept. One of these is also another great ability. You can now attune to the 4 magic items at once rather than 3.
What this is something that mid to late game players, if you've got a generous GM, it's a constant struggle.
Mm.
Our Under the Dome game that we've been playing for a while now, like that's always the question of like, oh, anybody actually have an attunement slot? No? Okay, well, what the hell are we doing with this item
Yeah, you
here?
guys pass magic items around like a friend group does that SO that has dated everybody in the group.
So yeah, I mean, items have been, passed around to be like, okay, anybody, want this? Anybody use this? And you know, but like me, I constantly am like, okay, well, do I want to tune here? Do I want to tune there? What do I need? What can I do? So it really is a big struggle to play with. So to have the artificer be like, yep, nope, I got this covered. It's nice.
So level 11, spell storing item.
Whenever you finish a long rest, you can touch one simple or martial weapon or one item that you can use as a spellcasting focus, and you store a spell in it, choosing a level 1, 2, or 3 artificer spell that has a casting time of an action that doesn't require material components that is consumed by the spell. While holding the object, the creature can take a magic action to produce the spell's effect from it using your spellcasting ability modifier. If the spell requires concentration, the creature must concentrate. Once a creature has used the object to produce the spell's effect, the object can't be used this way again until the start of the creature's next turn. The spell stays in the object until it has been used a number of times equal to twice your intelligence modifier, minimum of twice, or until you use this feature again to store a spell in an object.
So did you catch on to the to the major part of that?
The person who casts the spell is using your spellcasting modifier, but they're using concentration if it requires it. Um, is that what you're talking about?
No. It used to be a first or second level spell you could store, and
Oh,
it's a third level. Now they did that in the last Unearthed Arcana as well. So that, they kept that moving forward, but still from the from the version that of the Artificer you guys see in the game you're playing in now, that's an upgrade. What that third level spell slot. So I'm sure Ryan and that group might be very interested in revisiting that maybe. Uh, Level 14 magic item savant. Again, you just get more attunement slots. Now you're up to 5, which is great.
18 brings you up to 6. So that's like, you know, it's double what everybody else gets to do. That's
Yep.
pretty nice.
And then you get epic boon for 19th, like everybody else in the game. And
Uh,
then level
and there's
20.
and there's a new epic boon in the Unearthed Arcana. So I dig it.
So level 20, Soul of the Artifice. You have developed a mystical connection to your magic items, which you can draw on for aid. You can gain the following benefits. If you're reduced to 0 hit points, but not killed outright, you can disintegrate any number of uncommon or rare magic items created by your replicate magic item feature. If you do so, you can instead drop to a number of hit points equal to 20 times the number of magic items disintegrated. So at that point, you're making a bunch of them. Matter of fact, I'm not sure even how many you're making. But yeah, at that point you could have up to 6 of them.
So that's 120 hit points. If you just
Yep,
dust.
that would be all your hit points, but also all your magic items are gone. They make them again. Which is a bummer. And then magical guidance. Whenever you use your flash of genius and the affected ability check or saving throw still fails, the use of flash of genius isn't expended if you have an attunement to at least one magic item. So if you use cheat death, there's a good chance you don't anymore. But it's not guaranteed because you may have an item that you didn't actually make that you're attuned to still, and so the thing I would say about this is like it's decent, but 20th level, you're getting it into addition to the other things, so it's kind of always in effect, but you're not going to get much
Right.
use out of it. Again, I still prefer Soul of the Artifice from the original. I think it's in Tasha's Cauldron to Everything Artificer,
Mhm.
where it's just
Uh-huh.
you get a +1 to all your saves for every magic item you're attuned to. To me, I think that is way better than any of these features that I've
Sure.
seen them try and replace it with. Maybe that's why they're replacing it. They feel it's too good. But like you're at the end of the game, it's 20th level. Maybe I
How
don't
many
know.
sessions are you gonna get?
Maybe they felt like you're stepping on the monk's toes too much. But getting a +6 to all your saves is pretty nice.
That is nice.
Uh,
So
so
after we go ahead.
that is the Artificer. That's the tweaks, the differences. Um, when I look at it, the major changes are the magical tinkering, which they improved because you get the cantrip and your stuff lasts longer. You have more options for using spell focuses in this version versus the last version of the UA. And also your abilities around replicating and making magic items are expanded and give you more options.
Yeah, all in all, I think it's really great. When I saw that there was an Unearthed Arcana and it was revisiting the Artificer already, I'm like, all right, you best not be messing with the thing that I want to do. And thankfully the armor isn't even, talked about in here. So yay.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's those subclasses all still exist. It's just like they're tweaking, basically probably based on their feedback they got from the last one. Obviously, this is called Eberron Updates, so they're going to put out an Eberron book. They're putting out a Forgotten Realms book, right? So they're trying to bring back the things that weren't in the player's handbook,
Right.
um, in the 2024 books editions, and they want to get them out
Sure.
and get them back in players' hands, and they want to make you buy it again for sure.
Sure. Yeah, I just, the dreadnought aspect of the armor was a new feature, and I don't want them removing that from play before I have a chance to, actually play that character.
For sure. All right, let's jump into
The
2025.
cartographer. Sorry.
It's all right. Let's jump into 2025 Unearthed Arcana Eberron Updates, the Cartographer. Uh, Want to kick it off, Ted?
Absolutely. An artificer subclass is a specialization that grants you features at certain artificer levels is specialized in the subclass. I'm reading the wrong thing. Chart advantageous courses through the turmoil. Cartographers are the premier navigators and reconnaissance agents. Using their creations, cartographers can highlight threats, safeguard their allies, and carve portals to distant locations. As all other Artificer subclasses, you're getting new tool proficiencies. When you take this one here, you're going to get calligrapher supplies and cartographer's tools. And as always, if you have one of these, you gain proficiency in artificer and an artisan's tool of your choice. But in addition, when you scribe a spell scroll using the crafting rules in the player's handbook, the amount of time required to craft it is halved, which is nice.
It is nice, and I feel like when you're making potions or scrolls, you tend to get less resistance from your DM about bringing those things into the game. At third
Well, because
level,
they have because they are one use items, they have a lower threshold, a lower gold cost. So it's easier to say, hey, can I do this? Because the DM's like, okay, well, it's going to be a one off. Whereas, like, oh, can I make this magic item? Well, the magic items are permanent. You're
Yeah,
going to do this and it's going to last. And if you're creative and your DM doesn't see how you're going to use it, they might allow something and it creates a problem. Whereas if you bring a spell scroll in, okay, well, it's one off. It's going to solve one problem or make one encounter easy, but then it's gone.
agreed. So level 3 cartographer spells. When you reach the artificer level specified in the cartographer spell table, you thereafter always have the list of spells prepared. The third level is Fairy Fire, Guiding Bolt, Healing Word. Fifth, Locate Object, Mind Spike. Ninth, Clairvoyance, Haste. 13, Freedom of Movement, Locate Creature. 17, Scrying, Teleportation Circle. So it's very much all about the moving and finding, with some other oddballs kind of put in there, because it's like, I think so. This I kind of like this subclass, but also it very much feels like someone came up with an idea and then everyone liked it, but then they didn't really know where to go from there.
So I think the description at the beginning kind of says what it's there for. Um, you know, they're the artificer is a little bit of a catch-all, being able to do a lot of things. So like, okay, we're going to streamline this down into, it's about movement and like finding the threats.
Yeah.
And when you find the threats, you've got the ability to kind of do something about it and not just kill it, but like, get around it. So it's a little bit more subtle when it comes to other things. But that's not all you get at third level. We got more things to keep going. So you're going to get your Adventurer's Atlas. Whenever you finish a long rest while holding your cartographer's tools, you can use that tool to create a set of magical maps by touching at least two creatures, one of whom can be yourself, up to a maximum number of creatures equal to 1 plus your intelligence modifier. Each target receives a magical map, which is illegible to all others. The map lasts until you die or until you use this feature again, at which point any existing maps created by this feature immediately vanish. While carrying the map, a target gains the following benefits: awareness. The target adds 1d4 to its initiative, and positioning. The target knows the location of all other map holders that are on the same plane of existence as itself. When casting a spell or creating an effect that requires being able to see the target, a map holder can target another map holder regardless of sight, so long as the other map holder is still within the spell or effect's range. So it's like, oh, I'm going to cast invisibility, and then I can still see you and do stuff to you just because you've got a map. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I'm not sure of all the applications of this particular ability, but nothing else, you're getting a die for the initiative rolls, right? So you're already starting off good, and this is our third thing we get for third level already, and we still get another thing. I feel
Yep.
like this is going to be, as you kind of go through your spells and find things where you would actually have to be able to see a creature that you want to do something to, and for whatever reason you can't. Like you said, the rogue is hidden, another player is invisible, or there's something blocking line of sight. Well, which has definitely come up in our games. Uh,
Oh yeah.
so so you'd be able to use those abilities. Level 3 scouting gadgets. Gain the following benefits. Boost. On your turn, you can expend half your movement to teleport to an unoccupied space you can see within 10 feet of yourself. Can't use this benefit if your speed is 0. Um, that part kind of stinks, because a lot of things that people would use this for is to break a grapple. Well, it doesn't work for that, but you can get up to 20 feet of teleportation if you want to use your movement. I'm sure there's other things that make it useful, like you're standing down here, but you want to be up there.
Yeah.
You can just bamf up there, right, or over a chasm or whatever. So, but it's not quite as good as Misty Step, but it's going to have some applications. Radar. You can cast a fairy fire without expending a spell slot. You can do so number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Fairy fire is a great spell, and being able to do that, you're probably starting off with 3 times and going up to 5 times a day for free is not bad.
Yeah, I'm digging what's here. You know, it's it's a lot of ingenuity. If you've got a really smart and tactical player playing this, you're gonna be able to go far with this particular subclass. Level 5, you're gonna get portal jump. As a bonus action, you can teleport up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier minimum once. You get it back on a long rest. You can also use this ability without expending a use if the destination space is within 5 feet of a creature carrying a map created by your adventure atlas. Doing so destroys that map that the creature carries. So if you're in a pinch and you really need to get over, really need to move, you can teleport back to your ally and destroy the map.
Right. And you're just scrolling all over for one of your party members that you got anyway. Easy come, easy go. Ninth level, you get ingenious movement. When you use your flash of genius, you or a willing creature of your choice you can see within 30 feet of yourself can teleport up to 30 feet to unoccupied space you can see as part of the same reaction, which is great. Like, I don't know, maybe you just use flash of genius to try and get someone out of a grapple, but they still failed, but now you can teleport them away anyway. But I'm sure there's going to be way more uses than that.
There's plenty of options, but getting out of or away from a thing that's grappling you is a good thing, especially if you're somebody that's not a power based grappler.
Well, and also it doesn't have to be the person that you use the flash of genius on either, right? So that's
Correct.
another great part about it. It's like anyone, and you're getting this pretty close to when you get flash of genius. It's only 2 levels higher. And so you're going to start being able to use it. So it's great for manipulating the battlefield and positioning your allies.
So level 15, Superior Atlas. Your Adventure Atlas improves, gaining the following benefits. Safe Haven. When a map holder is reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, the creature can destroy its map. The creature is then teleported to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of you or another map holder of its choice and is stable. To me, I absolutely love that. You also get Unerring Path. If you are one of the map holders for your Adventurer's Atlas, you can cast Find the Path without expending a spell slot, without preparing the spell, and without needing the spell components. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. And then lastly, Unshakable Mind. While at least one map created with your Adventure Atlas still exists, taking damage can't cause you to lose concentration on your Artificer spells. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Like, I mean, this whole 15th level ability,
Yep.
one, like it's the subclass cap ability, but it's one of the better ones in the game, I would say. Just because it's got so many elements to it. And any spellcaster that can't lose concentration is pretty amazing. At this point you're creating like 5 of those maps anyway, so like the chances of them all being gone isn't
6.
or 6 isn't bad at all. So it's super useful. And also I find it pretty thematic as well. This whole subclass, and like in my mind, like I there's the Navigators Guild, or not Navigator, the Cartographers Guild, and it's full of these artificers, and they're all actually more like explorers and trail guides, like high end trail guides, more so than people that are like map makers.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, these are not the guys who are like, oh, well, I'm just going to sit there and make the map. It's like, no, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to find the dangers, and I'm going to do more than make a map. This is the diehards. These guys have, uh, oh, the magical version of what the Rangers are going to be able to do through survival instincts. They're like, nah, I got this covered with tools and magic.
Yeah, so all in all, it's a really good subclass. I would play it. It's this one I find really tempting, just because the abilities are kind of unique and fun. All right, let's jump into Eberron updates for Unearthed Arcana 2025 Dragonmarked Feats.
All right, so the biggest thing about this, is they removed the species requirement. I was like, I read through it. I'm like, I'm going through one by one. I'm like, No, you don't have to be an elf anymore. You don't have to be a halfling anymore. What the hell? Like as soon as they did that, sure, my brain read the things and was intrigued by what's there, but I'm like, by removing those things, that strips out, to me, a big component about what the Eberron houses were attached to. And like as I kind of said before we went on air, I'm like, I want to find ways to incorporate these things into the campaign worlds that we play in, because to me the last caveat of making it solely Eberron was just removed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they should have did that, and like they're like breaking their necks to homogenize everything so much, where it's like, look, as players and GMs, we know we can break the rules from time to time, and change things up. So like if a player comes up with a story and their GM, they can discuss it, and maybe they can have access to something they wouldn't normally have access to, right? It
Right.
won't break the game. It'd be some cool story elements, but again, like with each iteration of 5e, it does feel like in some ways they want to take as much power from the GM and put it in the players' hands and give them control of the world. It's like eventually they don't even want you to have a GM there, but we're not there yet. But I believe they're working on it. So I'm not a fan. Granted, we're not going to be playing in any Eberron campaigns. For us personally, doesn't matter, but we probably will use some of this stuff just fun. With that,
Absolutely.
let's jump into my favorite dragon mark, the Aberrant mark. Aberrant Fortitude. When you make a Constitution saving throw, you can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to the save. You can use this benefit a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. And as we move along, you're going to see there's a lot of similarities in the Dragonmarked feats, but not in this one. This is very much unique. As we go along, we'll kind of point that out. You also get Aberrant Magic. One cantrip of your choice from the sorcerer's spell list. Also choose a level 1 spell from that list. You can always have that spell prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot, and you'll gain the ability to cast it in that way when you finish a short or long rest. You can also cast the spell using any spell slots you have. Constitution is your spell casting spell. That's
So
very new. We haven't seen Constitution casters.
yeah, concasters are interesting. And when I read through this the first time, I I I'm used to the formula that is, how 5e is written. So I'm like, okay, just like every other time that you get a thing, you can use it once a day. And then as you're saying, it's like short or long rest. I'm like, wait a
Mm,
second. Every time you rest, you get your first level spell slot back.
yep.
Hmm.
Yep. So a couple new things in there. But also we get Aberrant Surge. When you cast a level 1 spell from this feat, can expend one hit point dice and roll it. You roll an even number, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to the number rolled. You roll an odd number, one creature within 30 feet of you, not including you, takes force damage to the number rolled. If no other creatures are in the range, you take the damage. Aberrant marks are supposed to be nasty and they're supposed to be bad, so that makes sense to me. Also, there are Dragonmarked feats have prereqs. Must be an Eberron campaign. So if you're not playing Eberron, you cannot use these. Wizards of the Coast will show up. Jeremy Crawford kicks in your door, rips off his shirt, and tells you no. Um, and you can't have another Dragonmarked feat. So it's kind of weird. Like there are prereqs, just not the ones that used to be there.
Right. So
So
the next one up is the Mark of Detection. And all of the feats all of these beginner feats, have that same caveat. Um, and these say dragon mark feats, but they don't say what was the term, starter feat, um, general feats or whatever it was, but
mhm.
like in the 2024 handbook, you had feats that you could take at first level. There's nothing that says that you can take these ones at first level here. Um,
Yeah, so it does say something about it.
so the graders are listed as general. The regulars are listed as Dragonmark.
So I
But I
believe what it said was I don't know where it said it now, but I'm pretty sure what it said was if you're a Dragonmark agent background, you can take
Mhm.
one of these feats. So a house agent, you
Okay.
can take one of these feats, and when you can take a choose a feat, you can take one of these feats.
All
So
right. So let's look at the mark of detection. You get deductive intuition. When you make a wisdom, insight, or perception check, you can roll a d4 and add that number to the ability check. Magical detection. You always have detect magic and detect poison and diseases spell prepared. You can cast each of these once without a spell slot, and you regain the ability to cast it in that way when you finish a long rest. Obviously, you can cast them with any spell slots you have. And when you take the feat, you can choose intelligence, wisdom, or charisma as the spellcasting ability for the feat. But when you reach third level, you also have the see invisibility prepared, and you can use it in the same way as the other spells. Um, if you happen to be a spell casting, class or have packed magic, detect evil and good, identify, detect thoughts, find traps, clairvoyance, non-detection, arcane eye, divination, and legend lore are added to your class's spell list.
yeah, and you get those at the levels that when you would have access to the spell level of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it increases, the spells you have access to. Although at this point they aren't they're on your spell list, but they're not prepared.
Yeah, they would have to be things that you would choose. Like
Yep.
these are not automatic. Um,
But it
you
might
know,
expand your spell list if you're a caster class that doesn't have access to them.
yep.
Next up, we've got Mark of Finding, Hunter's Intuition. It's wisdom, perception, or survival checks. You add that D4 to. We can just summarize those abilities because they're all basically the same. Finder's
Hmm.
Magic. You always have Hunter's Mark spell prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot, and you're gaining the ability to cast it in that way when you finish a long rest. You're going to choose your spellcasting ability, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. You take this feat, and then when you reach character level 3, you always have the locate object spell prepared and cast it the same way. Pardon me. The spells that you're going to gain are Fairy Fire, Longstrider, Locate Animals or Plants, Mind Spite, Clairvoyance, Speak with Plants, Divination, Locate Creature, Commune with Nature. So very, they're very druidy, but they're also all about basically finding stuff because it's the mark of find.
Well, next up is the mark of handling. So this is the one where uh sorry. Next up is the mark of handling. When you make an intelligence nature or wisdom animal check, you're gonna get that D4. You're gonna get animal friendship and speak with animals prepared that you can cast for free. Again, you can use spell slots. You're gonna pick intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Level 3, you're going to get the ability to target a monstrosity when you cast Animal Friendship or speak with monstrosities, as long as a creature's intelligence is 3 or lower, which I absolutely love that aspect of being
Yes.
able to, expand those spells into that direction. And then you're going to be able to get command, find familiar, be sense, calm emotions, beacon of hope, conjure animals, aura of life, dominate beast, and awaken added to your spells list if you are a spellcaster or have pack magic.
So yeah, there's definitely. I mean, I know there's a lot of overlap, so it might not be as useful, but I kind of would love to do this with a druid.
Uh-huh.
Um, but it could be cool for a lot of different types of characters. Also, a ranger would really be baller as well. Even though we don't really like the rangers as much as other classes as far as power level, but it doesn't matter. We're still gonna play them.
Sure, sure, sure.
Next up, Mark of Healing. Don't got to be a halfling anymore. No, you don't have to be this tall or smaller no longer to get on this ride. Medical intuition gives you the bonus to intelligence herbalism kit or wisdom medicine checks. You also get the healing touch. You always have the cure wounds spell prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot, or gain the ability to cast it in that way when you finish a long rest. You can also cast it using spell slots as usual. You're going to pick intelligence, wisdom, charisma as your stat. When your character reaches third level, you also have less restoration spell prepared and cast it in the same way. The spells you're going to get access to are False Life, Healing Word, Arcane Vigor, Prayer of Healing, Aura of Vitality, Mass Healing Word, Aura of Life, Aura of Purity, and Greater Restoration. That it really benefits if you're taking one of these to actually be a spellcaster. And there are different ways to do that we can talk about in a bit.
Yeah, definitely these things work out really well. If you have, the caster levels, just because an aspect, a quarter of this feat is being able to have more options when it comes to your spells, and to be able to say that, any of these things are on the spell list for your primary class, doesn't mean that it's, going to get offshoot to a different thing, and it doesn't necessarily have to attach to the same stat that you selected, when you chose the thing. I don't know why you wouldn't, but like, they could be split. These things are just great. Mark of Hospitality, you're going to get a bump to charisma persuasion checks, or when using brewer supplies or cook's utensils. Now, the interesting thing here is, with the Mark of Hospitality, it says anytime you use brewer supplies or cook's utensils, whereas with the Mark of Healing, it was intelligence herbalism kit. Uh, so like, if you have to make a wisdom or a charisma herbalism kit, nope, sorry, not going to apply. But here, anytime you use those, I thought that was an interesting choice of verbiage. So I don't know if the same person wrote wrote
Yeah,
these feats.
it's also possible that it was an oversight in one or the other. Who
Sure.
knows? But that's the price of being ever hospitable.
Uh, so you're gonna get Press Edition Cantrip. You're gonna know Purify Food and Drink and Unseen Servants. You can cast them, each once. Same thing with Intelligence, Wisdom, Charisma. The spells that you're gonna get are Goodberry Sleep, Aid, Calm Emotions, Create Food and Water, Liam's Tiny Hut, Aura of Purity, Mordekainen's Private Sanctum, and Hollow.
Yeah, so it's what you expect from being hospitable, and I don't know. It's kind of like cool if you wanted to add in like healing and protection type stuff to your they're all like the convenience travel spells basically.
I find it amusing that there's all of these things, and at first level, sleep is the most aggressive spell that is on this list.
Well, yeah, you listen. You know what? In order to get some rest, sometimes you gotta impose your will upon them and make them rest. Mark of Making.
Okay.
We get Artisan's Intuition, and that's when you make Intelligence Arcana checks or ability check using Artisan tools. You get that die 4. Spellsmith, the mending cantrip. You always have the magic weapon spell prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot, and you're getting the ability to cast it that way when you finish a long rest, like everything else. You pick your spell casting ability. Spells of the Mark. You're going to get Identify, Tensor's Floating Disc, Continual Flame, Spiritual Weapon, Conjure Barrage, Elemental Weapon, Fabricate, Stone Shape, and Gen.
Those are all phenomenal spells. And anyone who, is really into creating things, like, say like, Forge Domain Clerics or that kind of stuff, like, this would be like boom, right up your alley. These are all absolutely fabulous choice spells. Yeah, I was definitely looking at this as like, yeah, I'd love some of this. Mark of Passage. Here we see a little bit of a change. Courier speed. You gain, your speed increases by 5 feet. You're still going to get that skill bump of a D4 to strength athletics or dexterity acrobatics. You're going to get the Misty Step spell prepared, and you can cast it once, without expending a spell slot. Again, you're going to choose Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. Uh, So you're not getting that third level, bump of another spell, but you are getting Misty Step, which is nice.
Yeah, you get a
And then the
Misty
spell.
Step. You're getting the constant 5 feet of movement, and also the skills that you're getting are ones that get used often. So
Oh yeah, I'm not complaining. This is still one of the better ones that's out there. And then the spells that are going to get added to your list: Expeditious Retreat, Jump, Pass Without a Trace, Find Steed, Blink, Phantom Steed, Dimension Door, Freedom of Movement, and Teleportation Circle. Oh my.
yeah, not bad at all. I mean, it's all about moving around. That's
Oh
what the
yeah.
Mark of
I mean
Passage does.
these are all things that are going to save you a lot of time and you know get you through quite a number of problems. I think this one here is you know one of the best choices of the marks that we've seen so far.
Mark of Scribing. If the scribe, when you make an intelligence history check or ability checks using calligraphy supplies, you get that bonus to the roll of die 4. Scribe's Insight, the message cantrip, and you always have comprehend languages prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot, as usual. Um, let's see, and you get a third level ability as well. You get Magic Mouth spell that is prepared, and you can cast it the same way. And our spells are Command, Illusionary Script, Animal Messenger, Silence, Sending, Tongues, Arcane Eye, Confusion, Dream. Basically everything that has to do with communicating or stopping communication.
This one has got some good spells there. Glad to see that sending got put on there. I would have loved to see this one be slightly different and say like instead of at level 3 getting Magic Mouth, that when you get to level 5 you get a free sending. Um, Critical Role is really great at using sending to do fun things and serious campaign stuff. I'm progressing through getting closer and closer to the end of campaign 3. So like after hundreds of hours of watching Critical Role, the amount of castings of sending that I've witnessed is just astronomical. So much so that, spoiler alert, there was a problem that they did something in game and sending wasn't working because I think he wanted to just like, all right, enough of this communicating all over the place.
Enough.
No, this is just my speculations on it, but I think it was like, all right, you guys are using this spell way too often.
Yeah. So next up, Mark of the Sentinel.
All right, so you gain Sentinel's Intuition. This is Wisdom, Insight, or Perception. Is going to get that die 4 bump. You're always going to have the Shield spell prepared, and you can cast it once for free, as the others. Vigilant Guardian. When a creature you can see within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack, you can take a reaction to swap places with that creature. You are hit by the attack instead. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest.
The only thing I would say is like, why is that once per long rest, that ability? Like, I mean, one, right? Say you're protecting someone with a worse armor class than you. You're gonna get hit by shots that would not normally even hit you. And like
Yes.
someone is still taking the damage.
Yes.
So
I
what's a day is a bit rough for what you're getting on.
Sure. I would allow that, probably either a number of times equal to your proficiency modifier or, once per once per ability modifier based on what you chose as your spellcasting modifier, or screw it, do it as often as you want. You only
Use
get
that
one
reaction
reaction a
all
round.
it's you can only do it once per round because it's dependent on your reaction.
Correct,
So
correct.
to me,
Um,
like the I don't really see the need to hamper that
Limited.
ability.
Sure. The spells you're going to get are Compel Duel, Shield of Faith, Warding Bond, Zone of Truth, Counter Spell, Protection from Energy, Death Ward, Guardian of Faith, and Bigby's Hand. When I read through this, I really felt like I know you don't know much about the character that my son is playing in the kids game, but like I feel like this very much would fit his character. Um, and uh give he took Magic Initiate just to get Shield, and I feel like Mark of Sentinel would probably be better fit for him
Also, a
than,
better way to get the shield spell.
well, yeah. You know, uh this would be a better fit for the character than it would be for, Magic Initiate. And ironically, the character's name is Guardian, and it's Guardian Shield. So I'm like, all right, this is kind of just amusing.
Well, yeah, these
Uh,
are bodyguards. Essentially, that's what they do. And yeah, so and everything is geared towards that. So
he's playing a Warforged Paladin, Oath of Glory. So I feel like this really fits his character far better than that,
yeah, I mean,
Magic.
and he can take it as long as he doesn't have any other Dragonmarked feats, and he's playing an Eberron. He's good.
Well, he's not playing an Eberron.
Next up, Marcus Shadow, cunning intuition, uh, dexterity, stealth, and charisma. Performance checks is where you get your D4 bonus. Shape shadows, you get minor illusion cantrip. You also have the invisibility spell prepared. You get a free use of that. Pick your stat. Then you get your mark spells, which are disguise self, silent image, darkness, pass without trace, clairvoyance, major image, greater invisibility, hallucinatory terrain, and mislead. And the mark of shadow is all about, they generally work as performers, but they're also spies and assassins as well.
Yeah, so like if you aren't familiar with the Eberron setting, like this one might be a little bit harder to see. It's like, wait a second, stealth and performance,
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense. But once you understand a little bit more of like who these are, what this house is about, it's like, oh, this is really nice. And their spell selection is really, really good at being able to do the things that they're supposed to be able to do. So I really dig it. Mark of Storm. This is one that I happen to favor, and wish that my storm-based character could have this. Um, you're gonna get Dexterity Acrobatics check or Navigator's tools to get your D4 bump. You're gonna have resistance to lightning damage. The Thunderclap cantrip. When you reach level 3, you always have the Gust of Wind spell prepared, and you can cast it, once without spending a spell slot. Um, the spell is going to get added to your spell list are Featherfall, Fog Cloud, Levitate, Shatter, Sleet Storm, Wind Wall, Conjure Minor Elemental, Control Water, and Conjure Elemental.
Yeah, so it fits right in with that particular house. Um, and Eberron, they're the ones that basically they're the ones that basically pilot the airships.
I believe so.
Mark of Warding, don't have to be a dwarf anymore. Warder's Intuition, it's intelligence investigation, or using thieves tools to add a die 4 to, which is great if you happen to be a thief. Wards and seals, you always have the alarm and mage armor spells prepared. You can cast each spell once without a spell slot, as usual. And then at third level, you always have the arcane lock spell prepared and cast it the same way. I mean, the nice thing about having mage armor prepared and the free casting is you generally only need to ever cast mage armor once. So it's not bad. And again, if you're playing a rogue character, +3 to your armor class, that's better than any armor you can wear. And
Yep.
you actually don't have to wear armor. So, that to me, that's a pretty good get. And then the spells that you're going to get: Armor of Agathis, Sanctuary, Knock, Nistill's Magic Aura, Glyph of Warding, Magic Circle, Lehman's Secret Chest, Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound, Anti-Life Shell, and also the Mark of Warding. These guys are all about protecting an area. Oftentimes they're the bankers in Eberron, and their vaults are supposed to be the hardest to get into.
That's kind of nice.
So we have general feats now.
All right, so these ones here are kind of boosting all of the previous Dragonmark feats. So the first one is the Greater Aberrant Mark. You're going to get a increase to your Constitution up to a max of 20, +1. When you use your Aberrant Fortitude, it's a D6 instead of a D4. That theme's going to go throughout. All of the D4s are now D6s. When you cast a cantrip, you can expend 1 use of your hit dice, and you gain temporary hit points equal to the number rolled, and one of one creature within 30 feet of you, not including you, takes force damage equal to the number rolled. Um, you can use this benefit a number of times equal to your Constitution modifier, and you gain all expended uses when you finish a long rest.
So it's basically taking the ability that you were getting the first time around and just combining it into one ability instead of being like an either or. And with these, you have to be level 4 and you have to have the previous feat in order to take it. You know, in this case, greater aberrant mark means you have to have the aberrant mark, and you know that's going to trend all the way through. Greater mark of detection. Again, you get an ability score increase, but now you can pick any ability. You're not pigeonholed into one, and your intuition is now improved intuition, and it again goes up to a die 6 instead of a die 4 when you use those skills. Improved detection, when you can cast see invisibility, you can modify it so that for the duration of the spell you have advantage on initiative rolls. Enemies that roll initiative within 30 feet of you can't gain advantage on the roll. Once you modify a spell with this benefit, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. Now, a lot of these I find very interesting because you're enhancing and altering the spells. I don't necessarily agree with the like one time per long rest on all of them, depending on what they are, and some of them are a little weird. But all in all, I like the idea of it.
Yes, so yeah, all of them have this concept of they have they're a half feat, so you're going to get a bump by +1. All of the skills that we're getting a D4 now get the D6, and you're augmenting what they consider the core spell of the previous. So for your greater mark of handling, it's sorry, your greater mark of finding, it's Hunter's Mark, and you can modify it so the target can't benefit from the invisible condition for the duration of the spell. So like, all right, I Hunter's Mark you, and now you can't be invisible no matter what. It's like pre pretty potent. But as Dave says, you can only do it once. And I'm like, why? Like,
Well, yeah.
what
Well,
is
so here's one of the things though. Like, you can upcast Hunter's Mark, and it'll last like 8 hours. So once you put it on someone, like in this case, it doesn't matter as much.
right?
But it is an incentive to upcast that particular spell. So yeah. Greater mark of handling. This one might be my favorite. Um, if I'm thinking of the right thing, I could be wrong too. But anyway, increase a score, half feet, improved intuition. It goes to a die 6 instead of a die 4. Improved handling while mounted. Immediately after you hit a target within 5 feet of your mount, the melee attack roll. Your mount can take reaction to move at speed or take an attack action to make one attack only your choice. I'm completely wrong. This is not the one I was thinking of. It's okay, but like if you're not playing a mount, if you're not a mounting combatant, it's not going to matter. But that being said, you may have at this point you may have befriended some pretty cool monstrosities.
Yeah, so I think this one is fun, and being able to have your mount get a free attack on your portion of the turn, it's certainly not bad. It's not the best, but I got no problem with it. Greater mark of healing, half feet, bump the D4 to a D6. When you cast Cure Wounds and roll dice to determine the number of hit points restored, you can treat any 1 or 2 as a result of 3. I'm pretty happy with that one.
Yeah, I
Having
mean
played
it's
healers rolling ones.
it's less interesting and fun than some of the other stuff, but mathematically it works out really well. Greater mark of hospitality. Inspired hospitality. When you cast purify food and drink, you can modify the spell so that each creature of your choice within 30 feet of you is magically refreshed. Each affected creature's exhaustion level is reduced by 1, and the creature gains temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence, charisma, or wisdom modifier, whatever you chose. You can modify the spell once. Temporary hit points, great. Removing exhaustion to a bunch of creatures is amazing, but it doesn't come up that much.
Right. Well, I think with the new uh things of exhaustion, I'm guessing there's going to be more things in the monster manual that deal with exhaustion. Um, but I haven't gone through all the monsters in the new write-ups yet. So
All right,
the
greater mark of making.
So again, half feet, again, bump the D4, improved making. When you cast magic weapon, you can modify the spell so that the first time you attack with a weapon on each of your turns, you can transfer some or all of the weapon's bonus to your armor class. For example, if the bonus is +2, you can reduce the bonus to your attack rolls and damage rolls to +1 and gain a +1 bonus to your armor class. The adjusted bonus remains in effect until the start of your next turn, although you must hold the weapon to gain a bonus to AC. Once you modify the spell, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. This one, I would be like, dude, it's you cast anytime you cast magic weapon, it's a defender. You choose. Do what you want.
Yeah, it is. That one's kind of weak. I'm not really a fan of that one. Next up, Greater Mark of Passage. Half feet, die 4 to a die 6. Inspired Passage. When you cast Misty Step, you can modify the spell so that you can bring one creature with you, you're touching with you. That creature teleports to an unoccupied space of your choice within 5 feet of your destination space. Once you modify the spell, blah, blah, blah. Right? So, I mean, Misty Step, you get twice the teleports for one cast, one time.
Greater Mark Ascending, Inspired Scribing. When you cast Comprehend Languages, you can modify the spell to cause a sigil to appear in the air above a creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself, which lasts for the duration of the spell. While the sigil persists, your enemies within 30 feet of the creature must spend 2 feet of movement for every one they move closer to that creature. The sigil disappears if the creature makes an attack roll, casts a spell, or deals damage. I kind of have a problem with this one.
Me too.
Comprehend languages,
It,
I see as an out of combat spell. So why the
it's
hell am I casting comprehend languages in combat to stop people from getting closer to the person standing next to me?
like at least like so okay. One, it is actually good, but two, it is fucking dumb, right? Like who is like there are certain circumstances where maybe you need to comprehend languages. Again, it's not like it's tongues, right? Where in theory you're trying to negotiate and talk and things might go sour. You're
Uh-huh.
reading with comprehend languages, right? So it is
So
fucking weird, but the ability is good. So now people are going to just randomly cast comprehend languages to to slow monsters next to one of your allies or whatever.
this should absolutely just be, stop keeping the formula. Be
Yeah.
like, as a magic action, you can scribe a sigil, that appears above an ally's head, and it causes this. It's the same damn thing, but why do you have to have it linked to your comprehend languages? Like,
Yeah, hopefully that one in market making, hopefully they get fixed. Uh Greater Mark of Sentinel, half feet, die 4 goes to die 6. Improve Sentinel. When you cast Shield, you can modify the spell so that it magically marks a creature you can see within 30 feet of you until the end of its next turn. While marked, that target spends 2 feet of movement for every 1 foot they move away from you. So basically, if they ain't coming at me, bro, then they're gonna be really slow coming at you.
right. So it keeps them, hopefully locked next to you. I imagine it'd be absolutely amusing to link this up with somebody who's got, some ability to trip their opponents,
Yep.
either with your weapon masteries or, some other way, but they're not going to get away once you wind up
So
killing.
if you have the inspired scribing person cast comprehend languages and mark you with this, and then you use shield, then no matter what they do, whether they move towards you or away from you, they just move half speed,
That would be pretty funny.
or just have those two
Uh,
guys stand next to each other.
yeah, that's true. Greater Mark of Shadow. Uh, Improve Shadow when you cast invisibility on yourself. You can modify the spell to also affect one willing creature within 5 feet. The invisible condition ends immediately for an affected creature after it makes an attack roll, deals damage, or casts a spell. Um, you know, it's good to be able to get, twice the effect out of it.
Yeah. There's not much more to say about that. Two invisibilities for the cost of one. Greater Mark of Storm. Improve Storm. When you cast Gust of Wind, you modify the spell so that you gain a fly speed equal to half your speed, rounded down, for the duration of the spell. Once you modify the spell with this benefit, you know the drill. So it's okay. Like some of them, like it's like they're almost there and it's interesting, but Is
You're
it is it really
it's
am I
affect
going to want to spend another feat on this?
it's affecting one combat, so like you're only modifying it once a day. Sure, it's a half feat. I think for these particular, greater marks, it's more about it's a half feat, and if you're using those skills that's associated with to get that D6 instead of a D4, I think there's the bulk of what this is.
Yes.
But the greatest verbiage is in, oh, this thing that you can do once a day, you know, is a little bit better. So I think like while we're talking about it, it is more about the improved aspect, but I think the D6 is where your bread and butter is. Your last greater mark of warding, uh, improved warding when you cast mage armor on yourself. You can modify it so it also affects one willing creature you can see within 30 feet. Once you modify, blah blah blah. So two mage armors for the price of one.
Yep.
Um, okay, I don't know many characters who don't have access to a mage armor if they don't already have some kind of armor class calculating
Yeah,
thing.
you just like want to
So,
get a familiar or a cat or something just so you can mage armor it.
sure.
That's how I use it. Potent Dragon Mark. We're gonna break things up a little bit because now it's a half feat. Your ability score increases the spellcasting ability score used by your Dragon Mark, and anybody with a Dragon Mark can take this. You're also Dragon Mark preparation. You always have the spells on your Dragon Mark feat spells of the mark list, if any, prepared, which is also very good. So they're not just spells you can choose now; you just have them. A matter of fact, I almost feel like, especially if you're a caster, taking this before a greater mark would probably be beneficial. Dragon Mark spellcasting. You have one spell slot to cast the spells granted by your Dragon Mark feat. The spell slot is one half your level rounded up to a maximum of level 5. You gain the expended spell out when you finish a short or long rest, and use the spell out to cast only a spell that you have prepared because of your Dragon Mark feat or the Dragon Mark preparation benefit of this feat. So, you're going to get you're going to get a free casting, and it's just going to go up. You get a bunch of spells added to your for your prepared spells. Um,
It's like 8 to 10 spells that are automatically added to your list, and you're going to
well, so
get
you're
potentially
prepared.
up to
I mean, you have to get to the level to cast them, but still.
sure, sure. But I mean, by the time you're taking this one, you're going to be at least eighth, I would imagine.
Well,
Um,
you could take this one first.
that's true.
You could take it before you
Um,
take the graders.
so that's true. But taking this one, you're going to get all these spells added to your prepared list, which means you're always going to be able to use them. And up to a fifth level spell slot, that's a no-brainer. Like
Yeah.
no other feat gives you that kind of power.
Yeah, and once you hit 10th level, you get that. And if you take it at 4th, that's a second level spell slot.
Yep.
So it's not bad at all. And plus, at 4th, you're still adding a handful of spells to your prepared. So I'm digging it. Then we go to our epic boon, which is the boon
Okay.
of Siberius. Increase
So that
increase your ability score of your choice by +1, maximum of 30. This is epic boon. Aberron Magic. Choose a spell of any. Choose a spell of any level from the sorcerer spell list or a spell from your Siberius Dragon Marks table, and you always have that spell slot prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot. You regain the ability to cast it when you finish a long rest, short or long rest. You can also cast this spell using any spell slots you have. Again, it goes off of your spellcasting ability. So if you're an aberrant sorcerer, you just or an aberrant dragon mark, you just pick a spell. If you belong to one of the houses, it's already picked for you, but they're still good. Detection is true seeing, finding is teleport, handling is animal shapes, healing is regenerate, hospitality is hero's feast, making is demiplane, passage is plane shift, scribing is symbol, sentinel is mind blank, shadow is project image, storm is control weather, and warding is maze. So there are no bad spells on that list.
Yeah, they're all fabulous. So that is all of the Eberron Unearthed Arcana. There's a lot of great stuff in here. There's a lot of stuff that I would kind of, tweak and change conceptually. We've talked about how we would, play around with this. Um,
Yeah, I might have just found my corruption feats for other skies. Because it's kind of similar to what I would do, but I would, they'll just have like a drawback or whatever. But all in all, it's pretty good. Not seeing any questions in the chat. It's 9:15 here on the East Coast, but we're going to be back tomorrow night for Zoo Mafia, and then we're going to be back next week as usual with our live chat. Next week, unless they drop another Unearthed Arcana on us unexpectedly, we go back to the format we were doing before. We're talking about more of our homebrew games and stuff. So with that, until next time, stay nerdy, my
Stay
friends.
nerdy.
We are out.
Cool.